Next up, we have Colleen Cunningham. Colleen is the senior ebook developer at F&W, which is a content and e-commerce company. A publishing professional with 20 years of in-house design experience, her current areas of focus are ebook production and CMS workflows. She's also an adjunct professor at Emerson College, where she teaches courses in ebook production and has presented many sessions and workshops on the subject. Welcome, Colleen.
So, like any office, publishing has seen a lot of changes in a very short amount of time in the way that we do business. And I'm going to guess that many of us in publishing in this room today have felt like they've been accused of being behind the times. But I'm here to tell you a story today about how one publisher has employed modern tools to keep up with our new workflows. So this is Tag Sale, a case study in starting and selling semantic tagging. I do know that lunch immediately follows this, so I commit to treating this session like I do our CMS projects, on time and under budget. So that being said, a case study, I just want to emphasize one size does not fit all. I think it's fair to say that all of us in this room have different workflows. But I do hope that you might find inspiration and this generates discussion. I welcome questions at the end as well as anytime you can catch me during today. I want to give you a little background, context as to why I am here and how I feel like I can talk on this subject. I work at F&W, a content and e-commerce company. When F&W was started during the Depression, F&W started for farmers and writers. They were given grants to farmers to write. And over the years, we have been named F&W Publishing. Then we were changed to F&W Media. And most recently, we were changed to F&W Content. And they changed our name to emphasize that print books are not our end game anymore. We publish in several niche categories, from highly designed down to straight text novels, and I'll talk about how we're trying to work all of that content into the CMS and stages. And I just wanted to mention that we are the parent company of Digital Book World, which puts on a conference in January that tries to bring together people in the publishing world to continue the discussion. Our team that heads the CMS is a little unconventional. We're all in-house, but what unites us is that we have many years of experience in our company. I have many years on the print side, and I'm familiar with that workflow. We have Franco here today, who graduated with a master's in publishing, and his focus is on ebooks. And our director handled the image handling at F&W for many, many years. So together, the three of us have a broad range of experience and a long time working with the people that we have, and that has enabled us to build a sense of trust during the change. So that's how we got picked to implement the CMS. So why did we do it now? We do have a company culture that embraces change, as evidenced by why they changed the name of our company. And so now we're producing content for many formats. And other opportunities have also come up, such as selling our content straight from the CMS in XML to third-party news sites. And there might be even more opportunities in the future that we don't even know about to sell our content. So that's why now we're trying to prepare our content for the future. And this would not make any difference at all unless our executive team made the commitment and budgeted money and made it very clear to our coworkers through meetings and emails that they expect people to allocate time for the training. And we really look to them to help us spread the message. If Franco, Matt, and I had stood up and say, hey, y'all, we are changing, nobody would have listened to us. We need our executives team backing. That's an absolute must. And we decided to go with Librios because they support autonomy. They are always there for us. I can send an email at any time and they'll answer. It makes me worry for their work-life balance, but it works for us. And they allow for the customization of the CMS. Every time we ask if they can do something and change something, they will either say yes or they will say no, but they will tell us why, so we get educated too. And that being said, this is not a sales pitch. Like Derek had mentioned before, he works for a company that he's proud of, and we work with Librios and we're proud of that. But there are many, many solutions out there. So as I demonstrate Librios' platform, I just offer it as a sample of what's out there. So after having a solid foundation and the green light from the executive company, you would think I would have been, all right, let's do this. But really the first feeling I had was, this isn't going to go over so well. Because all of us in publishing, we're already tight on time, tight on resources. We have to get things moving. And for someone like me to have to come in and say, can you stop for a moment and learn a new way of doing things? That's just asking for trouble. I know that. So right off the bat, we decided to concentrate on 3 aspects of a CMS that would help us sell this concept of tagging and training. And this comes before implementing it into the workflow and training the people, because we had to be solid in our knowledge first of how this was going to work, even if this was going to work. And it starts with simplicity. Across the board, any person that knows what they're doing when they are recommending a CMS will tell you, start with simple. Don't pretend that this is going to be an overnight sensation. This is many years of a build out. And we also have to accept that not all content will be appropriate. We started with mostly straight text, both fiction and nonfiction, and with a very small core group of people. And we started building our tags and our ideas of training them and starting to think about the workflow with them. And once those things are set, we can build upon them. It's not reinventing the wheel every time we want to add more complexity. And the key is to not embrace complexity unless there's a real need. Sometimes we have communities, especially craft and design communities, who come to us and say, why aren't we in the CMS? And we have to ask them, do you have a business plan? Do you know why you want your content in the CMS? This isn't just a tool. There has to be a real goal, a production goal in the end. And our editors and designers already understand key concepts. Like you all know, I'm sure, like how many here already employ some sort of tagging in your workflow to tag your content? Oh, you guys, come on, all right. This is my audience right here. This is great. All right, so you already have content, but I'm gonna make the case for tagging it so it works wherever you want to send it out to your customers. And content versus style. A lot of our InDesign users already know that there's content, but then we add paragraph styles and character styles on top of that. So whenever we train, we tell our editors, when you're editing, you already understand structure. Our designers, you already know you have the content and you're adding style, and we try to emphasize that we're just going to build on that. And a key is to demonstrate success with real content and real users. We never use a test manuscript that has no deadline, because you all know that would never get done. What we ask from our editors is for real manuscripts with a flexible deadline, because there's always issues that are going to come up during training. So they pick manuscripts that might be a second edition, or manuscripts where they have a nice and easy relationship with the author to try to set themselves up for success. And for ourselves, building this CMS, it's okay to think in terms of beta, because the three of us on our team, on the CMS team, we always feel like we're just one step ahead. We are learning something and immediately turning around and implementing it and training it. And we have to be able to speak articulately, answer questions. And so whenever we run a test on a live title, we understand that there are going to be solutions that are going to have to be found. And these beta testings lay the groundwork for future success. Now let's talk about tagging and where we started. So tagging basically means that you have content in Word and you might have applied styles like normal and lists and things like that. And then the editor sends that to production and they import that into InDesign. And now they're designing the book. And for us, the ugly underbelly of what might have happened was the editor would have said, I'm not quite sure how to tag something or handle this kind of content. The designer will figure it out. So now we have the content in InDesign, and then we outsource it to an ebook conversion house, and then they make judgments on how they think the content should be tagged, and that greatly influences how this content's going to be rendered on devices, as Rebecca just talked about. So this workflow worked for us for a long time. The Word to InDesign workflow, certainly. I mean, that was many, many years in the making, and that's kind of how our publishing workflow was built around it. And then when ebooks came, we kind of just attached it to the end. At first, we would just send the InDesign books out and think, they know what they're doing. And for the most part, ebook conversion houses do. I mean, the oversized bulk, turn it around in one day conversion houses. But they're making a lot of judgment calls. So this workflow, while effective, is not sustainable because we'd rather have our content centralized and available for export anywhere. But in this workflow, how many options do we have to publish to at one time? We had InDesign, but we couldn't make the ebook until the InDesign file was done. Where did our updated content live? If someone wanted to go back and repurpose content or correct content, people had varying opinions on where that should happen. The editors wanted to keep the Word doc up to date. The designers wanted the InDesign document up to date. And us ebook developers said, well, we're not redoing the whole ebook. Let's make corrections there. So at this point, we're making 3 rounds of corrections, which ain't nobody got time for that. And the last point about this slide is which platform is most important. Again, depending on which department you work in, you have your own particular answer. So this is our bright new future. Answering the same questions, how many options do we have to publish at one time? Now we have the choice, if the content is living in the CMS and it's tagged correctly, we can publish to ebook first if we feel that would help our sales, or we can do the print book first if we have an agenda for that, or we can push content to the web. It doesn't matter which order we want to do it in. The content is tagged, up to date, ready to go, and so that gives us a lot of flexibility. And where does our updated content live? No question, in the CMS, although that has given us some growing pains, which I will share with you. And which platform is the most important? The CMS. Now, I'm not saying that InDesign is going to go away, but like InDesign replaced Quark, what if something comes up in the future? We could have the CMS map to whatever brand new tool will come up. As EPUB develops more, we can have the CMS export more and more EPUB 3 goodness to that. But it all starts in the CMS. Now, having the content centralized in the CMS makes no good if we can't get it out to the different platforms. And honestly, this is where some of the magic happens. When we work with Librios, with David, I will tell him, okay, we have this content in the CMS. When it's tagged this way, I want it to look this way in InDesign. When I have content tagged this way, I want it to look this way in the ebook. And same thing with the website. I don't know how he does it. That's what we pay him for. And I will show you one of the filters that he builds. But I love it. It's magic. And this is where the partnership of choosing the right CMS partner for you really pays off. So the CMS stores the content. The filters make the tags look how the content should look in the different platforms. And you can think of tagging as just like another language, and it needs translators. The tags allow all these platforms to display the content, and the filters tell the CMS how to do it. But this tasks our editors to do two very important things for us. And planning the structure of the content, using the tags consistently, and really thinking out how the page breaks are going to happen, because that determines the navigation. These are the three things that we are currently working on with our editors when we review their manuscripts. And the more complex manuscripts we get, the more tags we have to add, especially when it comes to navigation. That's been another growing point. And an unexpected benefit for us with optimizing content for a CMS is that when we tag content now, we strip it down to very basic tags. And then if the print designer, when the print designer wants to add more design, because that's what us designers like to do, they can do it in the appropriate place in InDesign. But storing content in its most simple form makes it very flexible for our ebooks. In our own ebook program, all of our ebooks are reflowable EPUB. They're very flexible and light. We hardly ever embed fonts or specify a lot of design. And so having these storage tags render content to its basic structure actually works really well for digital. So in a way, we're kind of reversing our workflow where we'll optimize our content for digital first. And then in print and InDesign, that's where we can add more bling. So now I'm going to actually give you a demonstration of how this works. But I want to make it very clear that I am not standing up here feeling like this. This is in no way done. There's never a finish line in a workflow or in a CMS. And the details of what we do now may change in time. If I came back a year from now and described what we were doing, I'm pretty sure there'd be many updates. But this is what's working for us now in the beginning. So let's talk about our workflow. And we are going to start in Word. And I'm not here to engage in a Word debate, although I do see a point in the future where we will drop Word from our workflow. But now is not the time, because we are introducing so many new concepts to our editors and authors that to take Word away from them right now would kill them. And I don't want to kill anybody, so we're going to accommodate them for now, and I'll show you how that's working. So here is a manuscript. I don't know why I picked the acid reflux diet. I'm sure nobody here has acid reflux or indigestion problems in publishing. It was just a random pick. But here's a manuscript, and we go with bracketed tags. We went this way because we've used bracketed tags forever. Our author manuals, our editors, they understand bracketed tags. And so every piece of content in this manuscript has a tag. And the tag simply describes what it is. So here's copyright tags that start with CR. And as we scroll down, let's get to a chapter. Here's a chapter. We have CN for chapter number, CT for chapter title. We have an introductory paragraph. The only thing that we did not require for tags was a paragraph with a paragraph indent, because that makes up the bulk of our books, and I didn't want to make someone have to put in 1,000,000 tags for an indented paragraph. So that's the only piece of content in our manuscripts with no tag. And how our editors know which tags to use is in our CMS user guide. So if we go to tag with bracketed codes, here is our list. And when I was working with David at Librios, I had so many tags. I'm like, I am going to be a CMS ninja and plan for every eventuality. And he very graciously told me that's a very bad idea, because we don't want to overwhelm people with too many choices. So we broke our tags down into section breaks and opening pages, making very clear which tags start new sections, because the tags that start new sections create the navigation in the CMS and in the ebook. Then we go to 4 levels of headings, running text. The one thing that we do want to specify in our tags is spacing, because of course you can't have multiple returns in digital. So we were very careful to actually supply many options for spacing. And then lists, write-on lines, sidebars, and so on. We had recipes and things like that. So we felt like that was a good start. And it turned out to be intuitive enough that the editors have been able to work with this. I don't think we've had too many requests for new tags, or if we did, we were able to tell them how to use these tags in an alternate way. All right. So we can import with a Word doc, but it's also possible to import, or not even import, just go into the CMS and just start typing content, which I hope will be our future. We can also import images, and 2 things in preparation for importing content is thinking about metadata and permissions. These are things that came up particularly with the CMS, because having a lot of content in the CMS is great, but what if you can't find it? So we are going to task our editors with adding metadata to their content. Like you can search, like say a recipe is about like a gluten-free bread, but what if there's strawberries, whatever, in the recipe? You can search on gluten-free, you can search on bread, you can search on strawberries, but what if there's a bigger concept like healthy living? Having them add metadata to the content, so if they just want to find healthy living recipes, they can do that. And permissions is a big deal, and it's actually a barrier to having people take the initiative to skip Word and go right to the CMS, because we have to give permissions to so many authors and so many editors. It could get a little crazy, so we're working on that part. So we have 2 types of views. This is the editor-friendly view. Most of them like this because chapter title is chapter title, but for our more intrepid editors, we have the XML view. And here's our XML here. And these are the tags that are actually exported to InDesign. So we do have different tags for every platform. We have the bracketed tags for Word. We have the names of these tags in the CMS. Then we have the XML, which names the tags in InDesign. And I do have a very large chart that shows tag to tag to tag, how they're all named. And we've just done that because we tried to make every step of the process speak to the editor, to the designer, and make the tags intuitive for them. And then here, up top, we can add our keywords here to make our content more searchable conceptual-wise. If none of these words appear in this chapter, we can add a concept, and then people can find the content. All right, is it already 12:05? Oh my goodness. Would you spend like 2 more hours with me? All right, let me go to the export to print and ebook very quickly. So in InDesign, if we exported this title to a blank template, what we have here is the content, and it's kind of ironic to me that this looks like a Word doc, but the magic is that we have all of these paragraph styles ready to go. The designer doesn't have to worry about that anymore, and they can just concentrate on what they do best. So they could find a regular paragraph, apply what they think will be the ideal font and text size, apply the trim size, and really get a fast sense of if they're going to make page count. It really speeds up their production process. But this is actually a templated title, and so when we use the template for this particular title, all the content comes through, and because the styles are already loaded with the template's design, everything looks exactly the way it needs to look. We do run scripts on sidebars with icons because we don't want to keep all of the icons and designy type things in the CMS, or else we'd have a million of them eventually. So this is where automation with scripts comes in. There's a script we can run. It makes these sidebars look exactly the way they should look. And then if we shoot on over to the ebook, we export the ebook, and because we've made our template for the CSS, the ebook looks exactly the way that we want it to look. So we have saved a lot of time. The thing about a CMS is it does take a lot of planning, but when we get everybody to use the same tags consistently, and when we build the tags into CSS and InDesign styles, we can have a very quick workflow and save time. Selling this to our editors and designers, I already expect panic. But in terms of what is most effective, we have found that from the top down, it's least effective to most effective. And particularly when I talk to someone and ask them how they feel about the CMS versus what they think, feeling is about more like vent to me. I'm okay with it. I don't take it personally. Let it go. What do you think about it? I get very interesting information back. Our designers and editors, they already know more than they think. They already know. When we first meet with the people we target to roll out the CMS, they already know their workflow, what departments they have to work with, where the corrections are made, where the documentation is. Some of them already have had experience with the CMS or project management. And we always ask their expectations because we do want to keep them realistic, but be inspired by them to see where we can take this. Since I have 1 more minute, I am going to go back. So tracking development. So there's a lot to take to be organized about. And so we came up with a way to document our changes as it's a work in progress, to prioritize a lot of the requests that we come through. And we came up with the solution of Google Docs. So I just wanted to call that up to show you. So here is our Google Docs. And you can already see I have something to take care of immediately because it's a high priority up at the top. Our medium priority things are things that we discuss at our weekly meetings. You can see things that are challenges already, incorporating images into our CMS. Sometimes we get content with lists that contain images. We don't know whether to train people not to do that or to accommodate that, so we'll have discussion on that. Then we have tabled things, things that have been requested, but we can kind of put it off for a bit. And then things that we've completed, which I'm very happy to say is a very long list. And I would say it's important not only to keep a record of what is happening, but to give this link to an executive committee member, because to be able to rely on their support, we need them to know that we are working, and we have one in particular that checks in all the time, and then he leaves us alone because he knows we're working, so we have the space that we need to work. So I have many more things that I can share with you. If you are interested, please find me. I will end on this note that a CMS is not this cold technological tool. It's made to help people do their jobs better. And I hope that I've shown that it's not so much about the technology as it is about the people. And we don't have to be stuck in an old office workflow with tools like CMS and tagging. So thank you. Any questions?
Full disclosure, I used to work at F&W with Colleen and Franco, and I was able to kind of be in the midst of the beginnings of the CMS implementation, which was very fascinating and a lot of fun. You presented some documentation. Can you give us your process as to how you collated everything? Because I assume you created that documentation all on your own with David at Librios. Mm-hmm. How did that go about? How do you plan for documenting an internal resource for your team when you're learning as you go with the thing that's so in flux?
It started with emails. We had so many emails shooting back and forth with so many responses and people added to it that it just got nuts. So I said, let's stop and put it in one centralized place. And then once we built that, it comes back to this chart here. CMS development is like software development, where every time we have a new tag to test or a new request to fulfill, we plan it, we do it, we check it, we act it. This is constantly going on. And so for every one of those items in the Google Docs, this was the process that started it. We planned it, we put it in the Google Doc, we made notes about how it went or how it did not go. The editors, they edit directly in the CMS. And you gave me an excuse to use this slide. So right now, because we are moving from a print-centric workflow, a lot of our editors are used to making corrections in the InDesign galleys, and those two squiggly blue lines indicate things that we need to go away. We need the editors to do all that in the CMS, and that's been a real pain point because they want to see the galleys. And so we are going back and forth on that. The other important point about this is that our InDesigners do save time when they can just focus on layout, no corrections, no tagging. But now we might need to reallocate our resources and give editors more people. And that is going to be a sensitive subject in the year ahead. I can definitely predict that. All right. Thank you.